All right, we ready? All right, let me first of all thank everybody for being here today. Today is a very important milestone for young people in the state of Louisiana. First, let me thank the governor. I want to thank Richard, who's here today. As of yesterday, Louisiana became the 20th state became the 20th state to make kindergarten mandatory. The governor signed the bill on yesterday, and that is a great milestone in the state of Louisiana. We wouldn't be here today without a lot of stakeholders. I am very pleased to announce that this was an easy bill. It was easy because every stakeholder played an important role. I mean, I think every person, including the one stakeholder who did not sign on early on, did not really oppose the bill. I think every stakeholder played a very important role. And before I get into how important the bill is, there were two stakeholders in particular that basically fostered the bill throughout the entire process. One is sitting to my right, Dr. Janet Pope with the Louisiana School Board Association, and also to my left, Dr. Sarah Vandegrift with the Charter School Association. These two people actually sat at the table with me in the Senate and in the House, and they worked very hard in moving the bill through the process. So before I make any further comments, I would like for them to speak to the legislation that was passed, because without them, it would not have happened, and without all of the people in this room. I want to thank the Superintendent of Education for Baton Rouge. All of these folks played a very important role in passing this important piece of legislation. Dr. Pope.
Thank you, Senator Fields. The Louisiana School Boards Association was proud to stand on the side of this bill. It just makes sense. At the end of the day, as the legislation was going through the House and the Senate, most people said in different committee meetings that they didn't realize that kindergarten was not mandatory. So with all the hard work that we're doing in Louisiana in regards to early learning and getting our students ready for kindergarten, at the end of the day, it just makes sense. We want our kids in school. Our school systems are there to support our parents, even if it's our homeschool students or our choice students in regards to resources within our school systems. I know that there's a parent resource center here in East Baton Rouge Parish that does support our parents and our communities, and we're excited about the legislation and putting this information out in our communities across the state of Louisiana.
And we're excited for this new law because we think it sends a strong message for Louisiana that not only is education important, but early education is important. We have a lot of work to do in Louisiana, but we have a lot of hardworking school leaders and teachers, and now we need some families. So we are very excited that together Louisiana will be moving forward.
So now let's talk about what the bill actually does. The bill will take effect not this year, but next year. And the purpose of these press conferences, this is the first of many others. We leave tomorrow to go to Shreveport and Alexandria. The bill will basically provide parents an opportunity to enroll their kids in kindergarten at age 5. So if your kid turns 5 years of age on September the 30th, we encourage you to enroll your kid in kindergarten this year. It's not mandatory this year, but it will be mandatory next year. If there are two exceptions to the bill, we worked that out in the House in conference. If your kid turns 5 September when school start, and they turn September the 30th after school start, then you will have the option. You can enroll your kid in kindergarten, or you can keep your kid out. But if your kid is in pre-K, then you don't have to enroll your kid in kindergarten, because the whole object of the bill is to get kids in school. we want kids to start learning early. All of the medical experts have opined that, the brain development between, 90% of the brain development is between ages birth and 5. So it just makes basic sense to get kids in early childhood education. So that's what the bill does, and I'm very happy that, this was supposed to be hard. This was supposed to be a very difficult bill to pass, but we started out the right way. In January, we brought all the stakeholders together, and we talked to them about how important it was to educate kids at an early stage. And Barry Irvin, everybody just said yes, yes, yes. And the one stakeholder that was not 100% on board, we even worked with them. And we got the bill passed, because no one could really make a good argument against early childhood education. And so this is step one. So parents, start getting your kids in early, now. Although the bill doesn't take effect until next year, let's take advantage of the opportunity this year. So with that said, we'll take any questions from members of the press.
Are you going to have to, expand districts and hire more teachers and things like that?
Well, we're not certain about that, because we lost a lot of students from the pandemic, and we lost a lot of students through the 2 hurricanes. So we're going to take it one step at a time. So we are not of the opinion that we're going to have to hire additional teachers immediately, but we would hope that in the not too distant future, it'll be a good thing to hire additional teachers.
Senator, you are the educators around you. Can you kind of touch on how important it is for kids to get into school and not fall behind? For those kids that we are seeing skipping kindergarten, does that really kind of ripple throughout their educational career?
Well, I'll touch on it, and then I'll either Dr. Pope or Vandegrift to touch on it as well. I put it to you this way. Listen, when a kid starts behind, it's very difficult to catch up. And we're fighting it kind of backwards. We're starting, we're saying you have to start school at age 7. That's kind of backwards. We have the kindergarten is too late. This is the first necessary step. But next year, I'm going to be working very hard on early childhood education. We should have done kindergarten 10 years ago. Real early childhood education, starts earlier than than kindergarten. So we're going to be, I got 2 more years as chair of education. I'm going to be working very profusely in getting quality spots for kids earlier than kindergarten.
Yeah. We'll also add that this is an exciting time because the state will soon implement its first ever K through 2nd grade accountability standards, meaning understanding where a child should be reading on grade level as early as age 5. So to now have all students across the state, whether you're in a homeschool program or in a brick and mortar school program for kindergarten, we're working with you on reading and literacy. So we think that this is absolutely the first fundamental building block for a lifelong successful life, not just in academics, but also preparing children for success in college or the work life and beyond.
Right. And the research shows, like Senator Fields said, is if a kid starts at 7, they're already behind. Early learning is very important for K-12. And we said in one committee meeting that we were coming back to the legislature because we want to have universal pre-K throughout the state of Louisiana. We want every student, every child to have the opportunity to be able to be in pre-K4. So moving forward, that is one of our visions and part of our mission for our students. And like Sarah says, where the State Department right now is working towards a K2 accountability. And we want to make sure that all of our students are coming into kindergarten ready. So, yep.
Absolutely. And look, let me commend Richard. Richard, can you come forward? I mean, Richard has been working hard, pushing the governor's proposals, and Richard has been very easy to work with. So the governor has made a very strong commitment to fight for early childhood education, and we've been working side by side. And we all, the Department of Education, Bessie, I mean, this is one time in the state where everybody is pushing in the same direction for early childhood education, and that's a good thing.
And following this bill through the session, you know, the biggest opposition kind of came from some of the parents who say that they want to decide when their kids are ready to start schooling. So, you know, throughout the process, how did you kind of quell their fears and just kind of moving forward to those parents who are maybe still a little apprehensive at starting at 5?
Well, they had a very compelling argument, and the way I countered that argument is, does the government have a compelling state interest in educating children? And the answer is yes. But I do understand when, you know, parents certainly, you know, have a substantial argument. And, you know, I have to, you know, I decide when and if I turn my kids over to the government. And so that's why we came up with the homeschool exception. So parents who do not want to turn their kids over to the government don't have to. You know, they can educate their kids at home. And so for parents who don't want to turn their kids, not turn their kids over to the state, I hate to say it that way, who do not want their kids to be educated by the state or by the private, because you don't have to educate, you don't have to, you know, your kids don't have to be educated by the public school system. They can be educated by a private school system, you know, but for those who don't want to do neither, they can educate their kids at home. So this bill is not as intrusive as people think it is. It is a very, very non-intrusive bill. We just want kids to be educated. And we can't wait until they're 7 years old. And we do have a compelling state interest in educating children in the state.
And I would echo again the fact that there will be resources for families, and the fact that the State Department will have strong resources as to what is appropriate for kindergarten learning to assist those parents so that they're not doing it by themselves.
Right. One of the things that did come up in committee was kindergarten 10 years ago, 7 years ago, was students playing in what we call centers. Educators call it centers, you know, house center, bank center. It's no longer like that. They are truly learning, not just letters and sounds, but they are learning to read, and the expectation is that they are reading by the time that they leave kindergarten to enter first grade. And the research shows, again, why this bill is important. The research shows that if a kid is not reading on grade level by grade 3, they will be behind for the rest of their years, you know, in learning. And so that's why it is very important that we get our kids early. And in our school systems, or like Sarah says, we still have choice. We have charter schools and we have homeschools. But to be a resource for our parents, because what we learned in kindergarten is not what our students are learning in kindergarten today. So it kind of helps out as well with the misconceptions of what kindergarten is today in 2021.
Any other questions? If not, thank you so very much for being here. And this press conference was so important until even my wife attended the press conference. But thank you all so very much for coming.